Welcome back to Worlds 2019 plans as we get ready for our second match of the day and potentially another exciting edition of Jats Facts. Hopefully not. Hopefully we don't have any more pauses.
Someone tweeted me some fact about a submarine disguising itself as an island, and I feel like they made it up.
I feel like that can't have happened too many times in history, so I feel like someone else can fact check that for you.
I didn't have time to fact check it before the game, unfortunately. I was worried about the game.
It's fair. It's Splyce versus DetonatioN FocusMe. And remember, Splyce 2-0, very dominant in their group so far. And for DetonatioN FocusMe at 0-2, losing here means they can no longer get first seed. They could, in theory, still fight for second seed, I believe, if they are able to.
Oh, no. I mean, because we only played 2 games on the first day, anything's on the table. Like, if DFM 2-0s and Splyce 0-2s, they're tied at 2-2 again. So there's, totally new games. But really, Splyce has to come into this one as the heavy favorite because of how dominant they looked on day 1. And DFM played 2 very unique team compositions in both of their games. And I wonder what they will come out with this game, because I think they should continue to try and play unique team compositions and just try and execute at a higher level, because that's DFM's best chance at winning.
And if you're someone, an analyst, maybe like Vedius, you're hoping for another Nocturne, but this time with, a Dusk Blade, more potential burst damage, and maybe that's some of the things that we can look at to change.
Not as much CDR, though. Has Vedius checked the win rates? No, he's put like 7,000 games of
Vedius is the win rate. No one else plays mid lane Nocturne. Vedius is the win rate. Overall, though, I'm curious to see how much adaptation. I was really surprised to see, honestly, Xerxe on Hecarim yesterday. Also, Echo was a pick that was so ludicrously popular that it felt like it kind of warped the jungle meta for that day 1 set of games. And do we see a bit more of a return to more normal, more standard picks? That's kind of the big question on my mind.
Yeah, I mean, Echo was picked 4 out of 6 games on day 1 and has been picked 0 of the last 7 games we've seen here at Worlds. So my theory on the Echo was that it's a very powerful solo queue and scrim champion where things are looser and you can more reliably get a lead because of how well he can gank. But on the pro stage, when things slow down and people pay more attention, these teams are just struggling with it, and clearly a lot of the junglers don't have enough games on it to be comfortable, which is why I think we're just seeing them abandon the pick outright.
Makes a lot of sense. No reason to take any more risks here, as a lot is on the line for both of these squads. Of course, looking at it, Qiyana, Pantheon both banned away a lot of the AD threats they want to take away from the side of Splyce. The Syndra, the Heimerdinger, and the Yuumi going to be the final 3 bans for Splyce.
Yeah, the Heimerdinger is definitely a mid lane ban at Ceros. That is his signature pick. Beyond that, the Syndra is the same thing that Splyce banned in their first game. And Pantheon, Qiyana are very close to being permabanned at this Play-In World Championship.
Yeah, and the interesting that they're going to ban away the Xayah, of course, something that Kobbe had a lot of success on the last time these 2 teams went toe-to-toe, maybe wanting to limit that get-out-of-jail-free card in the form of the Featherstorm, but it does leave him a priority on the remaining top-tier AD pick. I love it.
Hey!
Give us the thumbs up, baby. This man knows how to work the camera. Gets his Gnar. Now it looks like they're going to have the Thresh to follow up for Gaeng. And Gaeng, I mean, he had a lot of sick hooks in that game. They could not convert it to a win, but he is a Thresh that has to be respected. Yeah,
Gaeng definitely looking to make big plays in this one, and we're going to get to see a run back of that Kennen versus Gnar top lane matchup. I actually feel like that was one of the bright spots for DFM in their first game. Even though Evie died to one of the early Hecarim ganks, he then managed to pull himself back in many ways in that laning phase, and I think Evie is their best player, and they're running back this Nocturne, mid or jungle. We don't know yet.
And that's the thing.
Probably mid.
Splyce don't know either. You feel like probably mid. All right.
Well, okay, so last time it was a counter pick into Ryze because Ryze wouldn't be able to shove in off the spell shield.
They did ban Ryze, though.
So it's not going to be against Ryze this time, I gotta say. It's highly unlikely. And this also just means that they have it open for a flex pick.
Ah, good to have that flexibility heading into the second part of the draft. Hide a few of the picks that you have remaining. Gnar very much committed to the top side of the map, but still the potential to see the Nocturne flex. The Twisted Fate taken off the board. I wonder if Splyce will decide to limit the AD carry pool at all, stop some of Yutapon's more creative options, as in one has yet to be locked in for the side of DetonatioN FocusMe.
Yeah, I think if they're going to use Nocturne mid, they want to have as much gank setup as possible for the bottom lane. Thresh is a very good start for that, and also getting Kobbe off of the Xayah is very important. Ashe, Thresh is a lot of initiation. You just press R on both Ashe and Nocturne, and you usually get a kill bottom.
And Ashe, we saw the slow upgraded at early levels, 20% now on the Frost Shot. Huge. Very difficult to deal with. If you are Nautilus and you go in, let's say you accidentally hit a wall, you don't proc your Aftershock, you die.
Yeah.
There's no redemption there. And honestly, Norskeren was playing very high-risk League of Legends last time these two teams went to toe-to-toe. Worked out for him just about every time, but a single mistake here could turn the game against him, as once again we see the Hecarim locked in for Xerxe.
Yeah, he had such a successful game on it last time, getting 2 kills before level 4. Going to try and recreate some of that success, and just a boatload of crowd control coming out for Splyce here. Every single champion having the ability to kind of make their own engages happen. Going to see some Nocturne Galio, maybe?
That'd be interesting, bit of a throwback.
So Galio is a pick that a lot of these guys have been practicing in solo queue. He had numerous buffs over the last few patches, even though you still can't W flash. You can clear the wave well, you get very tanky very quickly, even when building stuff like Proto Belt, because the mana constraints have been removed on this champion. So I think it's a good pick into the LeBlanc, won't be able to be bursted out, and then I think they're just going to try and run back dives bottom lane this whole game.
I mean, they've got really all the tools to go pretty much anywhere that they want on the map. The semi-global map mobility of both the Galio and the Nocturne. They've got Ashe with an arrow as well. Tons of playmaking potential, honestly, on both sides. A lot of CC, a lot of good engage options. And, you know, last game we saw a team that could potentially split up the map, taking a lot of team fights. I wonder if this is a game where we see DetonatioN FocusMe very proficiently shut down a single lane, use the Nocturne, use the global map mobility, or if they're going to run straight toe-to-toe team fights up against the likes of a team like Splyce.
Yeah, and I think proficiency is the word to focus on here, because DFM had the right idea in many of their plays early on against Splyce in their first game, but they were not able to execute them, and Splyce just outplayed them. I mean, the number of times that DFM tried to dive Kobbe and came up empty was at least 5. Like I said, and he had about 10 kills overall in the game. So Splyce definitely going to be feeling very confident in this one.
And they should do 2-0 thus far. Cannot afford to lose a game here. So close to the finish line, so close to making out of this group, looking to secure first seed and move on to that bracket, move on to groups. Europe's 3rd seed versus the 1st seed from the LJL, DetonatioN FocusMe. Hometown heroes for all of Japan. What can they do in this game? That's the big question. How will they adjust the Nocturne back in the jungle, as we know it to be? But it's time for game 2 of the day, Splyce versus DetonatioN FocusMe.
Yeah, we'll always have to wonder if we're going to see any early game shenanigans come out. Pre-planned invades can be very popular, especially for teams trying to pick up their first win on the world stage. Splyce champ picking up.
I like that momentum.
Got to compete with the UOL and the Flamengo chants.
That's true. I'm gonna be honest, team. I think over the course of the game, yeah, that's what. Sorry, a little catcher bias. Whoops. If LEC wants to commute with the CB Law fans, you do need to ramp up just a little bit in the coming fights, because CB Law fans, to put it bluntly, are very scary. They're very intimidating. They're very loud. You got to match that if Splyce start to pop off. But it could be a sad day, too. You never know. DetonatioN FocusMe, I think, with a lot of new picks, clearly taking another stab at drafting in the new meta. I'm really excited to see Galio. It's one of those picks, as you mentioned, so many people are playing, but we don't know how good it is, or if there's another thing like Echo that might just be a solo queue scrim kind of pick.
Yeah, I have been fairly outspoken about thinking that it is good. However, it just doesn't create its own opportunities like it's used to, and I think is most likely suited better with a Jarvan or a Camille to more guarantee that you can actually get in with your R, since I think the laning phase, you can definitely wash it in a lot of ways and be able to get out of there even. So we'll see if DFM is able to get enough CC chaining off to allow Ceros' roams to be effective.
And for now, Ceros, of course, is going to get bullied out. The first level is going to be very difficult. LeBlanc with just ranged autos alone can kind of keep Ceros off the wave. Very difficult for the Galio to trade. But we check in across the map. I think top lane is another place that we kind of have to keep our eyes on, just given how much attention was put there early, and honestly how good Evi has been historically at these international events.
Yeah, so in their first game when they played this matchup, Evi died to a Hecarim gank. He tried to leap away and narrowly missed the bounce on Vizicsacsi, therefore died and burned his flash. Even with that, when they got to around 100 CS, he'd pulled within 10 and nearly killed Vizicsacsi. So if Evi can avoid the early gank death, I am very curious to see how he comes at Vizicsacsi, since I think when I talk to most top laners, this is a Kennen-favored matchup, but it is definitely still a skill matchup.
For now, though, it looks like Splyce have pushed across all 3 of their lanes, and that's going to make it very difficult for them to get information on where exactly Xerxe is going to spend his time. Humanoid allowing the way to bounce back, and I think if he holds it here, it's going to just be very difficult for Galio. Is going to need to have the jungler come bail him out, but as you mentioned, Kennen winning the top lane matchup for now in terms of just push, and we'll see if Xerxe wants to go for an early play here or if he just wants to start contesting some of these jungle camps.
Yeah, definitely just a big wave to crash in for Evi in that top lane, down about 7 CS, but really it's the mid lane that got put in a really bad spot by Ceros, so he was able to shove that in thanks to a nice ward he placed that did see Xerxe on that Scuttle Crab. So both junglers full clearing to the best of their ability. Actually, one camp behind for Steel's Nocturne. You can see his Gromp is still up. So very early on, advantage Splyce.
Have to see what Ceros tries to go for here. Humanoid kind of fishing for a bit of a play. The knockup connects. The stun is there. Now backing up. Steel just going to auto the wave. Yeah, I think just resets the wave here. Not a bad play. Not quite the gank that they wanted, but top lane is a very different story this time around. We're going to have to see how Evi does in the mid game, because for right now, Vizicsacsi is smashing him, even without the help of a gank here. These trades just so very much Kennen favored. Yeah,
also, blue side top lane is just a little bit favored just based on the position of the brushes. Not having to worry about as many gank paths as the red side right there, so if Evi does push up, it'll be much more difficult for him to keep vision.
That makes a lot of sense. It feels like it's impossible, actually, to protect yourself on red side with a single ward. You can see still the potential for a jungler to go through the Baron Pit, wrap around, fish for the dive. So always a bit nerve-wracking being on red side top lane. For now, though, Xerxe clearing up, stacking up, level 6. Has to be the focus point, I think, for both these junglers. The Hecarim ult to get things started off. But Steel getting things a little bit early. Norskeren going to miss there. That's going to be big. Still able to proc the Aftershock, however, and forced now to flash away. If he did not have CC on his auto, he most certainly just could have dropped there in an instant.
This is always very interesting. Right after a gank is sometimes the best time to go in for another one as the enemy. So Steel warding and seeing Xerxe right there will kind of allow them to reset and make sure they don't do anything early. Thinking about the first game that they played against, it was just a series of counter ganks that ended up coming in for Splyce. And I think they're looking to avoid that as much as possible before hitting level 6 on the Nocturne, level 6 on the Ashe, and then trying to make plays on their schedule.
Definitely. I think for both these teams, it'll be interesting to see what they do with those level 6s. Obviously, a lot of engaged playmaking potential when Xerxe is able to come down to the bottom lane with the Nautilus to back him up. After he was actually going to pull on top. For now, Humanoid actually staying relatively even overall. After those first few waves, Galio has been a lot more comfortable. The passive shield going to mitigate a lot of the poke LeBlanc tries to bring to the table. So things not too bad, especially as Evi also catches up in CS to a certain degree. So very even early game so far from DFM, not falling prey to any of those early ganks.
Yeah, this is actually much more like a normal Splyce early game that we would be used to from the LEC. They are up in gold. Splyce is actually not a bad early game team. They're just an inactive early game team in a lot of ways. They focus on CS and objectives for the most part, and that's what we're seeing here. Yes, it is close, but they're narrowly winning basically every role in CS.
Yeah. Vizicsacsi, though, now might just try to fish for the play, but he's going to force the hop out from Evi. And you can see, I mean, the Revolver just makes those trades a little bit more irritating than Gnar, kind of some pseudo-sustain built in on the transform, but the second he transforms, he's basically just food for the Kennen. It's too easy to harass him out. And honestly, I'm just glad to see Vizicsacsi moving towards this AP Kennen. It's been one of his strongest picks in pinch kind of team fight scenarios. And when you're fighting against a Galio, someone who wants to be in the midst of those fights, it feels nice that Splyce have a solid answer.
Yeah, it's great counter-engage for someone trying to jump into your team to just come into the waiting arms of a Kennen who can actually Zhonya's the Galio ultimate and then immediately stun him when he does land. So in team fights, you can definitely see that counter pick. And the thing that I'm trying to track right now is the deep wards from Splyce. You can see one around right where Nocturne is. He's walking over that ward multiple times if you look at the minimap. So that lets Splyce know very clearly Nocturne 6, Nocturne moving bottom lane. So if Splyce is on their game, they're going to be in place for counter gank or be able to play safe.
And you see Xerxe is here already. Has the Conqueror. No challenging smite, but a chilling smite there. And in theory, they've got enough
back away. Oh, that's bad timing.
Here. That is not all you need. He's just going to start getting deleted. The Aftershock, not enough resistance just to keep him alive. Big fumble from the side of Splyce.
They saw him walk over the ward. They saw Galio go down into the river. I think that is a big misplay by Splyce to let that gank work, but it is also exactly what DFM want to have happen with their first Nocturne ultimate.
And you have to wonder what the communication is like there. Maybe Norskeren says, hey, if we engage before level 6, we don't have to worry about Ashe. We have our jungler here already. We can get something, but he's just not in a good spot.
Yeah.
Just perfect Thresh hook once again.
Even with Hecarim there, Galio is in river, so a 4v3 would also be lost. That's a situation where you have to let the wave crash, and Norskeren not respecting it.
And Mountain Drake now drops to the side of DetonatioN FocusMe. And Humanoid at this point not really able to harass out either in the mid lane. Is able to keep the pressure up, however, but can't really do anything with it, sadly. Gnar is under his tower, so unless they're willing to start pushing for a few more dives, it's only going to be vision control laid down here by the LeBlanc.
Yeah, and so far as well in the top lane, Vizicsacsi doing work against Evi, winning the lane by basically more than he won in the previous game when he had the gank assistance from Xerxe. So running it back has been advantage Chachi.
And I like to see Chachi ramping up. Obviously was a big question mark for the team. You know, was kind of just the Gangplank bot in a lot of their final games. So good to see him start to scale up, get a bit more comfort picks under his belt.
Yeah, also been a player for so long in the EULCS or LEC, finally getting his chance on the world stage so far. Still undefeated.
Yeah, I mean, Vizicsacsi's doing well. Unicorns of Love are doing well. It feels just weird how things line up sometimes.
Yeah, Clutch is doing...
Ah.
Wait, what was that?
What
Not gonna finish that sentence.
No. Clutch is doing.
Yep.
And Jat, you're
Dracos.
not an LEC caster.
Nope.
Which is a shame. We'd love to have. But this is not the time to poach. So instead, I'm just gonna tell you that this is kind of what you expect from Splyce. I think that Splyce, as we've seen, there's two kinds of teams at Worlds right now. There's the set play teams. I kind of put Team Liquid in this bucket to a certain degree where they very smart about, and when they feel in control, they just win a game.
Yeah.
And there's not much that people can do to stop them. And then there's the teams that are more outside of the box, more kind of breakneck pace, play after play after play, responding on the fly. And Splyce are the set play kind of team. So I do think that as we move later, now that level 6s are coming in, you can expect Splyce to start to try to exert more control over the map, but they're not going to be going for the big crazy moments. And that's something that you kind of have to get used to watching Splyce.
Yeah, and they're going to want to play around Kobbe. Even though Kobbe doesn't have amazing stats, he is clutch in late game team fights, and they're going to want as many kills and protection on him as possible. It's just really difficult to force plays against Nocturne Galio. So I think DFM's game plan here, banning away the Xayah, going against a somewhat more diveable AD carry in the Kai'Sa, is fairly wise. Luckily, though, Splyce has the wave in a fairly good position where they should be able to back away. But DFM they're so ready for a gank.
I like the Speed Shrine coming out. The Hawkshot gives them all the information they need. The Ward place, though, reveals almost guaranteedly Galio. I don't think they know if it's Galio or Nocturne, but they can assume both parties are on the bottom side of the map. And of course, when Galio's back in mid, you do have to respect it. It will just be a pure 3v3. Hecarim, though, with a Cinderhulk. Obviously, the AoE CC on the ultimate a bit more valuable, maybe, than the Nocturne, but not the same amount of damage.
Yeah, I'm not fully bought in on Cinderhulk Hecarim, but once he gets Trinity Force, if he goes that, he can still do a respectable amount of damage. But if he ends up going full tank Hecarim, I feel like that pick is a little bit underwhelming.
Good damage comes in from Ceros, but that's all of his cooldowns, and Xerxe is now here. The Nocturne can make his presence known, can go in, try to fish for this one out. Ceros, though, now in trouble. They are going to grab that kill. The Ashe arrow is not going to connect. Well played by the side of Splyce, forcing the flash out from Steel as well.
Yeah, I think that was a good play by Splyce. Attack the global is one of the first things you learn about playing against these Galio teams. So when you're actually able to gank mid, it's successful. And Ceros burned so much just on a trade with Humanoid. So good gank by Xerxes Hecarim.
And with Humanoid still having flash up, there's just not a lot Nocturne can do. He doesn't really get to pick the target he wants to. He kind of has to go for the Hecarim, and it just doesn't work out. Yeah,
it looks like a good trade at first. He thinks, okay, I'll get half of his health. But then he says, wait a minute, we don't have bot prio. The Ashe arrow might fly in, but it's going to be way too late. And really is so far in the lane that Flash would still have him die. So misplay by Ceros.
Yeah, and look, say what you want about Cinderhulk Hecarim, but he's definitely a harder to 100 to 0.
True.
So let's keep it going for now. Top side, Vizicsacsi continues to build an advantage. You can see about a 500 gold lead for the side of Splyce. Kills are, of course, tied up. DFM with the Mountain Drake, I feel like probably more valuable than that 700 at this stage, and continue to be so. But how to see if Splyce can extend this lead. A kill over the Hecarim, if he does opt to go for that Trinity Force, will be nice to kind of up the pace on that scaling pick.
Yeah, and I'm really just waiting to see when the next gank bottom lane will come in, because I do feel like DFM got sidetracked a little bit on their overall strategy, and it's going to hurt them because it's also before Rift Herald breaks. I think oftentimes if you're trying to break these heavily bot-focused team compositions open, you want to get your successful ganks in before 14 minutes, because then taking the 5 turret plates is the equivalent of 2 more kills for your AD carry, and that can really snowball you ahead. So a fairly important mid lane kill there by Splyce to stop that from happening.
Yeah, just any Ashe arrow that you burn not being fired in lane is going to be that much better. Stops his copy from having to burn any summoner spells. And yeah, you can always dream for that beautiful moment, that, you know, max range Ashe arrow, the infinite stun. But more often than not, when you're in this lane with a Thresh, it makes more sense just to throw it at your lane opponent with some jungle backup.
Yeah, and looking at the CS as well, this is more what we are used to seeing when a major region team plays against an emerging region. It's just solo lane superiority, right? Oh, the game, they don't have to do anything crazy. Their laning skill will just be better. And then when we eventually do team fight, they'll already be at that tilted advantage that they're going to be able to win. So that's kind of what Splyce is doing here. It is actually what they, as you mentioned many times, has done in the LEC.
True.
But that's absolutely the right strategy to play against DFM.
Well, and just minimizing the amount of variables in any given game.
Yeah.
Playing it out slow and steady, not taking crazy risks against a team like DFM, I think makes a lot of sense. And now, I was talking earlier, it was, you know, 300, 400, 700, the gold lead slowly ramping up. Now 1,000 in the favor of Splyce, built very much off of individual leads. 138 to 115, 134 to the 100 in mid lane. Very difficult. The Proto Belt is there for the Galio, but doesn't feel like it's enough to really provide any kill pressure on the LeBlanc. Vizicsacsi, though, ulting. Evie, though, now going in, tossing him back. Mininar's about to come out. This is when he's going to be able to have the chase potential. Good damage from Vizicsacsi, running him down. Evie, I think he can find the kill. One more auto. The boomerang forward, he gets it! That's the solo kill for Evie, and that might just break open the top lane matchup.
He does have to recall out of respect for Hecarim since they don't have vision on him, but that does prompt them confidence to go for this Drake, knowing Evie could teleport in if Splyce contests. 19
seconds on Vizicsacsi. They're now going to go down the Nocturne immediately to the backside. Here comes the Galio. Steel setting it up with the Hourglass as well. Steel now locked up, though. Kobbe goes right back in and tries to find him, but Xerxe is here as well. A lot of CC, but Yutapon now starting to chase. Norskeren will not be able to make it out of this one. End of the day, DFM still have the setup. Humanoid, is he going to try to redeem this one for him? Evie gets lower and lower. Gnar coming in. The Ignite is there, but they're not going to be able to find the follow-up. Ignite will it's at least stop the second Mountain Drake. I think that is the good news.
Yeah, it's enough damage to push them off Drake, but I really love the play there by DFM. Immediately starting the objective off of Evie's advantage, trying to take a small advantage and turn it into a big one. Darkness comes in, flank TP starts the instant he's there. However, Steel does take a lot of damage in the process, and unfortunately, Kobbe is actually able to weave in that W right around Ceros' Galio, which allows them to make this a 2-for-1. And then Humanoid, even though he's late to the play, does enough damage to prevent the Drake from being taken.
And just a very close exchange overall. Could have swung into disaster for either side if a few things had gone differently. But on Kobbe to get out, staying even in this lane so far. We'll have the Q evolve too. The Catherine Rain going to be doing a lot of damage in the fights to come. But Galio getting closer to level 11, reduced cooldown on the ult means even more plays than we're already seeing. Have to wait for that one, though. Very long cooldown. And Vizicsacsi actually shifting his attention to the bottom side, not the game around Rift Herald. Plates have already gone down, so instead the focus on the Mountain Drake here. Vizicsacsi willing to burn his TP and give up a bit of the CS in his own lane just to make sure his team can secure this objective.
Yeah, and I think that's generally smart focus from Splyce. Playing around globals is all about windows of opportunity. Knowing that the Nocturne and Galio ultimate are down means DFM is actually unable to win a team fight, whereas Splyce with LeBlanc have higher windows of uptime with the low cooldown on the LeBlanc ultimate burst combos. So I like Splyce going for that play.
I do too, and I think in Vizicsacsi's mind, as he went back, he didn't want to burn the TP because he thought he could get back in time, but giving it up, not going to be the worst thing either. A bit difficult at this stage for Evie to push too much further forward in the lane. You can see in the total gold, Humanoid Xerxe well ahead, but the gold is actually now starting to even out as Norskeren very far behind.
Yeah, that's going to be real interesting to see how that progresses. So had a few discussions with other analysts about Nautilus and whether or not he counts as frontline. Because some people just call him like a dude who takes Aftershock and then dies. That was a Crumbs point when we were on the analyst test together. And in this game, I think that's what Norskeren is looking like he is going to be, since the Aftershock can be proc in any number of ways, and then he's just going to be full squish after that with how low his gold income is. However, the front line can still be supplied by the Hecarim and the Kennen, who, by the way, is going full tank Hecarim from the looks of it.
Which I don't necessarily love, but obviously the damage scale up on the Q on the Rampage plus the Conqueror means he is still somewhat of a threat, especially to tankier members like a Gnar, like a Galio, as the fights go on. Have to see how effective it is for him. But, I mean, overall, very, very even game. It felt like Splyce were slowly building a lead, but then a single play brings everything back. Mountain net for Mountain now at this stage, and it's just eyes on who is going to use their ultimates, who's going to use their map pressure next. Yeah,
and we know how a DFM teamfight looks. It's darkness into an Ashe arrow into potentially a teleport flank, but that's absolutely what DFM is going to be trying to do next. Steel, though, did use his stopwatch during that last engagement, so DFM have to be very crisp with that. Otherwise, Steel will just get bursted out by LeBlanc and Kobbe before the rest of this team arrives.
Yeah, and it's interesting because it feels like Splyce are playing with even more respect than they would domestically. I mean, you look at the stats that they've had so far. LEC average, they built slow, you know, kind of these steady leads, 461 on average here.
Yeah.
Huge leads in the tournament thus far, but this game has been much, much slower.
Yeah, and this could be a play coming in the lane as they're trying to roam with Nocturne. And yet, to point out about that last graphic we saw, that was Splyce's average in the LEC. And it goes to show how dominant they were in that first day, being a little bit more reserved in this one, but I also think it's because DFM is just playing much better. Their ganks have been well coordinated. They haven't just thrown themselves in between turrets and had Splyce pick up kills afterwards. Even the restraint we just saw in that top lane play, having Steel not ult in, waiting until they find the right opportunity.
And as well, it's just you have a Galio now in the mid lane and Nocturne in the jungle, so you don't feel like you're as constrained to snowballing the Nocturne in the early game. Yeah, it's always good for Galio to have a lead, but can still make big plays in the mid to late game. Has great teamfight utility, and now looks like an uncontested Herald, of course, right before the Baron is going to spawn. So you're not going to get plates off this, but you can use it as a pressure point on the map.
Yeah, I mean, if they use this to break mid, that completely opens up the Galio Nocturne, because at this point in the game, DFM is going to want to camp Thresh, Ashe mid lane. They're going to want to move Gnar and Galio to the side lanes, and then Nocturne will be able to create a a map advantage wherever he decides to ult in. So DFM actually just setting up the way they should.
It's going to make it that much harder for a player like Vizicsacsi, who has been winning at least in CS in this lane, obviously went down in the 1v1, to go for any aggressive trades, because you never know if the Nocturne's going to come in. It's going to be, I mean, very similar to that Rengar pick, really good at punishing anyone who tries to 1-3-1, whether that's Humanoid, whether that's Vizicsacsi. And, I mean, Xerxe has the Ghost, but he's going to be trying to outrun a Nocturne ult if he's going to come save these plays.
Yeah, and what's interesting here is actually DFM isn't going with the strategy of camping Ashe and Thresh mid lane, which I think is a mistake here, because they want to be able to have that pick potential to break mid and eventually take Baron. I think it's very rare you see an AD carry support duo down bottom lane 20.5 minutes into the game. So it could be the fact that they want their Galio free to ult somewhere, but really they're just losing a lot of map pressure. You can see how much Splyce gains here, actually, because Splyce are the ones that camp Kai'Sa mid lane. LeBlanc had a 1v2 that was unable to be punished, by the way. That's why you don't see AD carry support in side lanes that often, because very rarely they can't do anything against a soul laner at this level, and the map pressure is actually gone from DFM.
They gave up a lot there. Now, the good news is that they have reassigned their lanes. You do see the Ashe now taking up farm in the mid wave, Galio taking top, Gnar on the bottom lane. So Simon's in a bit of a better place. We'll see when the next back timing comes out, but it does cost him a bit in that instance, and Splyce now get pretty much a free reset off the back of that. We'll be able to go back by second item coming in here on the side of Kobbe. Evie now going in on the Humanoid. Gnar playing the aggressor onto the LeBlanc, not something I'm too used to seeing.
Yeah, the benefit for Evie here is that he laned against a magic damage champion, and now he can swap into a magic damage champion. So I think he's going Frozen Mallet after this, and is actually going to be looking to kill either the Kennen or the LeBlanc if he sees him in the side.
And here's the good news. Kai'Sa does a lot of magic damage. Hecarim is building
doesn't do damage.
Yeah, doesn't do damage. He's building full tank. So itemization is just very easy for Evie at this point in the game. But
I think DFM's going to fight this. Splyce is taking a risk engaging.
Ultimate comes out. I set on Kobbe, they're focused in. Vizicsacsi trying to interrupt the engage here. He's going to stop the Galio from coming out, but Steel is still doing a lot of damage. Ceros now stepping in, the flash in, the ignite. That's going to be it. That's everything that they need. Kobbe taken down by Evi. Gnar now coming in, but in the meantime, the rest of the team is getting picked apart. It's an incredibly split fight. Yutapon still alive for now. Oh, hook comes out. Yutapon flashing away, trying to live, not quite able to get it. Ceros, who's fishing for the kill. Humanoid tries to sidestep, but now the killing spree comes in for Ceros. Vizicsacsi just has to turn tail and run.
This game is so close. That fight could have swung heavily in either direction, but there were close kills going to both DFM and then Splyce to make it a close 2v2. But because DFM did pick up the second kill and Evi did push Norskeren off down in the bot side, they'll get the Infernal Drake.
And it's just an altless Kennen. You've got Xerxe up now, but it's just not enough. They're now shifting their attention to the top side to try to get vision in response with the Infernal and the Mountain now there for Detonation FocusMe in the fights to come.
Yeah, watch Kobbe, because the success or failure of killing him in every fight is probably going to determine the game. So Kennen is not there to protect him. The fight is split up, which means they can kind of dive through with impunity. Look how low Steel was as he was auto-attacking Kobbe. If Vizicsacsi is grouped there, he actually just kills the Nocturne, and then Splyce can fight front to back after that. But when they're split up like that, especially as this game goes later, DFM stacks a little bit of MR. They'll be able to handle Kennen and LeBlanc's sustained DPS because it would be low, and it's really just Kobbe that DFM need to kill and who Splyce need to protect.
You just have such tanky laners. You can obviously see Ceros going for the Zhonya's just for the kind of the active effect there. A little bit of armor is nice to have, but as he is able to get something like a Banshee's Veil or even a more defensive item, we'll be able to weather the storm, and that makes these fights feel very impossible. Good news for Splyce, Vizicsacsi does cancel the Galio ult in that exchange, but now with the Herald in the mid lane, it just doesn't feel like Splyce can step up to fight here.
The classic 23.5-minute Rift Herald.
You know, gotta use it at some point.
Latest Rift Herald of Worlds thus far.
That's an easy call. Almost the latest possible.
Yeah,
It's like 1950 something when Baron just like actually deletes it.
You could technically place the Rift Herald after 24 minutes because it lasts 24 seconds in your inventory and I think 20 seconds on the ground. So if you killed it at 1955, waited until 2015, and then dropped it at 24:15, I think I've theory crafted the latest possible Rift Herald. You told me we were going to go down some tangents during a Splyce game.
I did say it was time for Jats facts. I did say that 24 minutes ago.
What I'm not sure of is the 20-second linger. So depending on that, you can adjust the overall time.
It feels longer when
might be 30.
When I play, but that could just be because you're in game. You know, you got endorphins racing. All right, well, Heavy. For some reason, they're all running away. They don't really have knowledge on the rest of the team. Of course, there's a Nocturne kind of constantly threatening an engage here. I do wonder if Xerxe at any point here is going to go for some more aggressive itemization. You know, you could halfway do it. You get a Xerxe. It's like a tank item. You can tell your coach it's a tank item, but does a lot of damage.
Take a little bit of that in there.
GA, tank item. You know, just need the BF sword first. No reason. And it's a bit rough, honestly, for Splyce. I think for both of these teams, though, it's just about kind of finding the perfect setup. They both have these incredible comps where single rotation of ultis should wipe most of the enemy team in an ideal world, and it's just about who kind of finds the trigger first and finds the setup to do so.
Yeah, and once Nocturne is level 13 with Black Cleaver Warrior, his CDR is high enough that the windows of opportunity of playing around Knockalt don't really exist for Splyce anymore. So it is very difficult for them, not wanting to overextend on a side lane, especially when no one in the game can actually deal with Evi's Gnar 1v1 right now. And I think that's why a few minutes ago we saw Splyce just kind of start Drake. Even though that's exactly what DFM wanted, Splyce didn't have many other plays because they would lose the side lane 1v1 to Gnar, and other than that, they'd just be waiting around for an Ashe arrow to land. So it is kind of like Splyce wants to group in a spot and then outplay. And I think that's most of their strategy, what it needs to come down to based on the current state of the game.
And look, out executing. A lot of pressure to put on yourself, a lot of pressure to put on these players. It's easy to go, hey, they're the LSD.
Well, here's that Ashe arrow.
But nope, here we go. Fight gonna get kicked off. Norskeren going to be immediately taken down. The Ashe to the backside, potentially in trouble. She has the X-Trigger, but I don't think it's enough. A beautiful hook from Gaeng. He stops LeBlanc in his tracks. Vizicsacsi going to get one back, but Ceros still trying to turn this fight around. Evi, no Gnar quite yet, but he's starting to run down. Kobbe, a lot of damage. He is untouched. He's supposed to decide the fight, but the Gnar is massive. There's so much damage coming in from this DFM team. Humanoid now going to be in trouble. Evi still going in, but it looks like he is going to get taken down. He's coming back in response. Kobbe desperately trying to save this fight. He has no cooldowns left. The Thresh is going to call the retreat as Ceros and Gaeng back off. A very close fight.
Remember what we said about Splyce just grouping and outplaying? We saw a couple of things right there because Kobbe outplayed in a number of different ways that fight to actually win it off the turret, since it was a 3-for-3 overall. We're going to see a lot more fights like this.
And realistically, it's going to get harder and harder to lock this Kai'Sa down in the fights to come if the Nocturne isn't putting everything into her, and you can see that's not the case here.
Yeah, so this is the pick. It takes about an extra second and a half for DFM to kill the Nautilus, and then it just becomes a team fight. And the important thing to note here is the engage wasn't used onto Kobbe. Kobbe actually did get knocked up by the outside of that Galio ultimate, which was a small misplay, but then from here, just being able to get so much damage out while sitting at such a low health number, waiting in the brush on the side, stealthing back in, and then executing steal before healing up with Triumph, what looked like Triumph at least.
A lot of fantastic individual moments there. You see the hook denying the LeBlanc access. You see Vizicsacsi ulting, which stops Nocturne from reactivating the ultimate to leap into the backside, knowing he will just get shredded on his way in. And Splyce now playing with a lot more confidence, trying to up the speed, up the pace of the game.
Wants to go.
The arrow goes in onto Vizicsacsi. They're going to try to delete the cannon before the cannon kicks off. He does not have ultimate. They are going to grab the dragon in the meantime, but Detonation FocusMe turn their sights on the Baron.
Yeah.
They know they have an advantage in the fight.
With no Kennen ult and the Galio ult coming up soon, DFM could think about engaging. They did use so many ultimates, though. Without Ashe Arrow, a turn would be very difficult, but we know what they're at least going to try and do. The initiation is just actually fairly lacking. It's going to be Evi's flash and R ult if they get anything, if Splyce tries to come in.
He's got the flash up. Mega being held off, rage management. Not something we talk about all the time.
Good check.
Humanoid steps in. Nice safety from LeBlanc, but now they're going to kick it off. Now they're going to get it started. Eyes on Kobbe and Norskeren to turn this one. Humanoid is focusing on the wave. He now knows that he has to go back. It's getting lower and lower. Body block comes in, hook connects, they're going to look for more. They manage to hit the hook, play on to Kobbe, they are going to back off, the taunt is there, the follow-up is there, but Kobbe manages to get out. Evi knocks him into the wall, can they kill Kobbe? The Kai'Sa, will she go down? No, she buys a few more seconds with the stopwatch. Can they take Kobbe out? No, Kobbe makes it out! The absolute madman, but it is not enough, they are still winning the fight. Xerxe refuses to die, but it's Humanoid on the backside, it does not matter. Evi with a monster play on the back of Gaeng's Thresh is going to be more than enough, and that's it! Point and click them down, the paranoia coming through.
I don't know if we're done yet, though, Dracos, because Chachi is up with the Kennen ultimate, and those are some pretty low health bars by DFM.
No flash, but Kobbe is here. They could try to go for it.
I think they're giving it up. DFM's gonna get Baron.
DFM getting Baron. And is this gonna be the second time today we see a major region upset? LJL coming in clutch in this fight.
And the calls were loud. You could hear them in the studio. They're yelling to turn off because they're looking for Kobbe. Flash, Gnarl, like we talked about, really the only good way they can engage, but it is set up by Gaeng's Thresh, who has been on point this game. We haven't been calling it out, but he's landed multiple hooks in every winning team fight, and then basically as soon as it's off cooldown, Steel's able to pick off Humanoid, who was likely trying to hide to prevent the Baron later, gets punished.
And incredible. I mean, the confidence to pull this one off, knowing when they needed to turn to pull off the Baron to win that fight. Very good from Detonation FocusMe in a very tense moment. And now they have the buff backing them up, and this is where things should be a bit easier. They have Gnar to just infinitely pressure the side lane with the Baron buff, see if Vizicsacsi wants to respond, but when push came to shove, we thought a very even fight in the mid lane. Splyce came out on top, Kobbe's able to grab a tower, and then a single pick kicks things off for Detonation FocusMe, and they get the Baron in the end.
Yeah, but that single pick is going to be difficult to replicate and is incredibly key for DFM's team fight success. The reason they could dive Kobbe in the manner that they did was because there was no Kennen ultimate to peel. Once Kobbe has enough gold for stopwatch, for Zhonya's, since he's used his stopwatch, the amount of time he can buy means the dives take 4, maybe 5 seconds before you actually kill the Kai'Sa. So if Kennen's there, I think Splyce can still counter the dive, but DFM is finding the windows and the need to work around those constraints.
And I think there's a lot of pressure now on Vizicsacsi. And we've heard a lot of top laners talk about winning the Kennen matchup often comes down to getting Kennen's ultimate. He has to have that for the coming team fights. And if he burns it on anything, a trade versus Evi, and he doesn't get the kill, Splyce cannot win the following fight. It's going to be very difficult for them to do so. And Jat, my only other concern, as we look at the itemization, we talked about AP topside. Well, now you've got an AP bottom lane. It's hybrid damage, admittedly, coming in from the Kai'Sa, but itemization, as we get later, will just get easier for the side of DFM, and they're pushing in, looking to break open this in-hit tower.
It is interesting that DFM has chose double GA against a team with so much magic damage. They want the second life for that decisive team fight, but I think you could definitely call into question whether or not those should just be MR items, whether or not those should both be Maws, because it would still give them the adequate amount of AD, and it would give them more effective health. They just lose out on the revive. So we'll have to see if those GAs come into play.
See what they build in the future. what they're going to opt for. Looks like Deathcap's going to come in from Ceros. He does not get the Lantern. That's less than ideal. Are they going to go into this fight, though? Ceros caught out. Taunt only going to connect on one. They're trying to pick him off. It's going to delay the fight for now.
Well, getting the Nocturne and the Ashe ult out is very beneficial for Splyce, as there's only 30 seconds left on this Baron power play, and it makes it very unlikely that DFM will even come close to breaking the base. But they're actually going to try. So many people moved over for Evi that they could potentially break this mid-inhib.
They're going to try to break the inhib, but if Splyce can find a fight here with the Kennen, they can get something done. But they're not going to take it. They're not going to take the risk. They know if they lose here, they'll just lose the entire game. They're going to back off and give up the inhibitor instead. 10 seconds left. They have another wave crashing topside. If someone overextends on the side of Splyce, this could be disastrous.
Chachi has flash, teleport, and ultimate. They're going the flank right now.
Pink's coming in. Where is he going to go? Chachi on the backside. Is he going to flash over the wall? But they're pulling back. They don't want to fight this. They've already burned the TP. They're happy with this one. But that's multiple people knocked up. Eyes on Vizicsacsi. He's not going to go in. He's holding. He's waiting. DFM slowly and steadily pushing forward, but they're all grouped up now. Here comes a massive ult, but no! Abby stops it in its tracks. Vizicsacsi is not able to get everything he wants. Kobbe still kicking off the fight in favor of Splyce. The GA now coming in, Steel trying to retreat. He will live. Vizicsacsi has gone down. A beautiful fight coming in from Detonation FocusMe.
They're on Kobbe!
Splyce has overstayed his welcome. Kobbe will get deleted in an instant, and that's not going to do it. Humanoid take it down. Detonation FocusMe have ripped through Splyce, and they might just end the game.
Dracos, I think it's over. It's a full tank Hecarim without ultimate. He needs to try and kill these minions to get rid of the backdoor bonus.
Pulling back. Xerxe is going to go down. He just wants to kill the wave. He's trying to
cut through. Kennen.
He's going to kill it. The minion wave is gone.
He's held the game for at least now. 30 seconds, 24 seconds on Kennen.
There's not enough
DFM
time.
is trying to get the super minions. I think they still win.
Going to walk in. I cannot believe it. When it came down to execution, Detonation FocusMe came in clutch. They denied access to the fight for Vizicsacsi. Thrown into the wall, thrown out of the game. DFM find the win.
DFM make a massive statement on day 3 of groups. 0-2, winless, last in the group, counted out. But we heard from them that they think their losses were on their own play in the first day of group stage, and if they are able to clean those things up, they will be able to win, and they prove it here. They pick a full crash bottom team composition. They play with patience against Splyce, a team who is not known to be proactive, and they pick their spots very carefully. Get enough picks, play off the advantages, and take down Splyce in 33 minutes.
A stunning game. And the thing is that obviously LJL's had mixed performances in the past, but one thing that you can say about this team is that they are veterans of this stage. If any team should be able to play without fear on this stage, it is Detonation FocusMe. It is the LJL representatives. And a fantastic, I mean, Splyce just have to go back to the drawing board after that game. Outclassed in a slower game, a more controlled game, outmaneuvered around the map, and there's a lot of things I'm looking at right now. One of them is Evi, the man playing like an absolute monster, and next to him, Gaeng's Thresh. This can't go through the draft again.
Yeah, I definitely didn't like Xerxe's full tank build on Hecarim. I thought Norskeren got picked off too many times as things to point out for Splyce. But as far as DFM goes, Evi, who was my player to watch for DFM before this tournament, really showed up. The solo kill on Kennen, which just accelerated so many of those plays. Actually finding backline access through these chaotic team fights on Gnar and getting a Gnar ultimate on Kobbe in a very key moment. And thinking about just this playing stage overall, Dracos, coming into the day, we were saying, okay, well, we got like Splyce just dominating, they're through, and we got Damwon, they're through, and then the other groups, those are the crazy ones. You know, strong groups, weak groups, that's what we got. What do we say now?
Every group's a crazy group.
What do we say now? Because
I don't know, Jack. I don't have the answers.
We're casters.
Anymore.
We need something to say. DFM, another shocking game. Like we had, like the big shocker to start the day. YOLO's 2-0 over Clutch Gaming.
In commanding fashion after what should have been what looked like a very easy win for Clutch on the back of a solid early game. And this one, Splyce stalling, and in the LEC, you'd be like, oh, this is a Splyce 1 game. Easy, no problem. But DFM, show up clutch. And I mean, that's really all you can say. For more on that upset, let's check in with Lore and Ceros.
Thank you very much, guys. And thank you, Ceros, for joining me. Congrats on winning your first game, finally. What was different today compared to day one? Because you look like a totally different team today.
そうですね、僕たち1、2戦負けてしまったんですけど、そのパフォーマンスを出し切れなかったんですよね。そのメンタルがちょっと弱いのか分かんないですけど、本番の時にスクリームでやってるようなことができなくて、 なのでそこも今日はもうスクリームだからって言って試合に臨みましたね。
So obviously we lost the first and second game. One of the things that we've changed is that we've told ourselves this is a scrim. This is a scrim game, so we just wanted to change things up.
I mean, it's so common to see teams have different results in Scrim compared to stage. So would you be able to explain why you play differently on stage and on Scrim?
ステージとスクリームってどういうふうに変えたのか、どういうふうに変わったと思いますかと。なぜかと。
そうですね、やっぱり本番ってなると緊張してしまったりミスできないっていう気持ちになってしまったりするんですけど、もうそういうのをスクリームの時は結構リラックスしてゲームできてるんですよ僕らって。なのでそういうのをもう本当にこれ本番じゃないから明日練習だからって昨日ずっと言いながらなんていうかメンタルを準備してましたね。
So mentally, it's more we're more focused during the scream, and that's one of the things that changed.
All right, well, I hope you can keep this focus for the rest of the day. Now, I find it funny, every time I see you, teams respectfully ban your Heimerdinger. So what is your take on that?
ハイマーディンガーについてどうですかと。
そうですね、まあ正直バフは入ったんですけれども、バフ関係なしにどうせバンされるだろうなと思っているので、あんま関係ないかなと思ってます。
I knew that Heimerdinger was going to be banned anyway, so I wasn't really thinking much about it.
All right, well, I still hope you will have an opportunity to play it before you do your last game. Now, you still have one last game to turn things around, actually. So, how do you think the rest of the day will play out for you? And do you think you will be able to find this mental state you were mentioning earlier?
残り試合ですか、どうですかと。
そうですね、このままの状態で臨めば絶対僕らは勝てると思ってるので、次も勝って、次のステージに進みたいですね。
If we're able to keep this up, then we'll definitely be able to move on to the next stage.
All right, well, I'll see you for the next interview then. Thank you very much for this interview and thank you so much for the translation. We're going to take a short break and we'll come back in a few minutes for Game 3.
19 seconds on Vizicsacsi. They're now going to go to the Nocturne immediately to the backside. Here comes the Galio. Steel setting it up with the Hourglass as well. Steel now locked up though. Kobbe goes right back in and tries to find him, but Xerxe is here as well. A lot of CC, but Yutapon now starting to chase. Play on to Kobbe. They are going to back off. The taunt is there. The follow-up is there, but Kobbe manages to get out. Ebby knocks him into the wall. Can they kill Kobbe? The Kai'Sa, will she go down? No, she buys a few more seconds with the stopwatch. Can they take Kobbe out? No, Kobbe makes it out. The absolute madman, but it is not enough. DFM slowly and steadily pushing forward, but they're all grouped up now. Here comes a massive ult, but no! Ebby stops it in its tracks. Vizicsacsi is not able to get everything he wants. Kobbe still kicking off the fight in the favor of Splyce. GA now coming in, Steel trying to retreat. He will live. Vizicsacsi has gone down. A beautiful fight coming in from Detonation Focus. No, Kobbe! Splyce has overstayed his welcome. Kobbe will get deleted in an instant, and that's not going to do it. Humanoid take it down.
We came to win. We lost before, but never again. Back on our grind, you know what it is. We gotta win.